So after I finished my college career at Cal State Fullerton, I was kind of mulling over opportunities and different things that I wanted to do, and I had always been a fan of MMA, and that was something that I enjoyed watching. I didn't necessarily see myself fighting, but I enjoyed watching it. And then I started to see people having success in the UFC, having success in MMA that I had competed against, and it kind of got me, thinking like, hey, I beat that guy in wrestling. Maybe I could do that kind of sort of thing. And I remember one of my buddies, one of my roommates was starting to train and stuff like that. So I was like, I'll just go down there and start doing some boxing and this and that. And one thing kind of led to another. I was boxing, and then I was grappling. I was doing jiu-jitsu, and then all of a sudden, I was getting ready to train for a fight. So it all happened so fast. But I think my wrestling style and the way I approached wrestling and the way it kind of transitioned over to MMA. I think I have the perfect style of wrestling and being a competitor that fits well with MMA. So a lot goes into these fight camps, you could say. I do a lot of strength and conditioning. I do my strength and conditioning with Miss Jackie Fitness over at Athlete's Choice. Some of the things I do there, I'm not so much focused on getting a lot stronger. I feel like I'm one of the stronger people at the bantamweight division. More about being stronger longer. So longer cardio, a lot of repetitions, high pace, high reps. That's the kind of things I do. A lot of tire flips, tire slams, sprints, box jumps, things like that. Working on my explosion, my speed. Those are the kinds of things I do for my strength and conditioning. Boxing and my Muay Thai, my boxing coach is Danny Perez. The thing I love about Danny and the reason I gravitate towards him is because he's a realistic striker. He's not going to show you this 15-punch combination that maybe 3 of the punches land. He's going to show you a 3-punch combination that most of the time those 3 punches are going to land. He's very realistic, and he's my kind of style of boxer. Raja Shippen, my Muay Thai coach, he's taught me so much about Muay Thai. I credit a lot of my success towards him. He's really helped me out in my stand-up game. I'm usually training 5 days a week when it comes to wrestling. I have my wrestling students at Rain Training Center that I help and I coach. I also wrestle with the high-level high school kids that come into Rain. On top of what my training already entails as far as the pro MMA class in the mornings. When it comes to the sport of MMA, I have a little bit of mixed feelings about it. Is that I love the competitive aspect of MMA. The one-on-one. There's only one guy that's gonna win. On the flip side of that is that I don't do this to hurt anybody, or I don't do this to try to take someone's head off. Like, I'm merely just trying to win. That's my main objective is winning. You don't have any animosity towards these guys, but you get in there and you're throwing punches to take their heads off. It's kind of a weird dynamic, even though they've never done anything to you, except they're trying to take your head off, I guess, too. But that's kind of where I fall with the whole MMA thing. I love the sport. I love how there's so many aspects that play into that, and you have to, your level of each individual discipline has to be high, or that it could be a early night for you. I was born in a small town, Safford, Arizona. It's one of those towns with one high school, one middle school, really small population. I have my siblings. I have one brother, one stepbrother, and then when I was about 7 or 8 years old, we adopted, my first cousins from my mom's side. We adopted 4 of them, and so that's Amber, Zach, Chelsea, Nathaniel, and Brandon. So altogether, there's about 8 of us, I think, that was living in one house at one time. So big family. Big immediate family. I started wrestling when I was 4 years old. My dad was a high school wrestler. He also coached the middle school program, so it was kind of just an easy way to get in there. I would go with him to practice, and I just started wrestling. It was almost like WWF to me at first. It wasn't like a serious kind of thing. It was just I'd go there, some days I'd practice, some days I wouldn't, but it was just a fun way to throw around my friends and wrestle with my friends. When I started wrestling, I was 4 years old. I didn't have very much success. Actually, I didn't have any success at all. For the first 2 years, I didn't win a match. I competed every Saturday and I didn't win. And I remember my dad telling me a story about how I would come on, wake him up early in the morning. You know, we had to travel 2 or 3 hours to the tournament, so, you know, I would be waking him up at 4:35 in the morning, be like, Dad, you know, are we gonna go to the wrestling tournament? And he would just look at me and be like, dude, are you sure you wanna go, you know? Like, man, you getting your butt kicked, you still wanna go to these tournaments? And I'd be the eager beaver and be like, yeah, I still wanna go. But, yeah, that was my beginning of the wrestling career, and then after that I started to find a little bit more success. My first real experience with wrestling, my first live match, I remember going out there, it was freestyle season, so you expose your back, it's 2 points. I remember I go out there and I shoot in on the guy and he gets me in this like front headlock and he starts rolling me. I get up, I'm dizzy, I don't know what's going on. You know, the ref makes us shake hands and he raises his hand and I'm just like, dude, what just happened? He beat me in probably about 13 seconds, you know, choked me out, threw me, rolled me, and it was over that quick. And I don't know why I kept going, so I guess I'm a glutton for punishment, but you know, I kept coming. All the way up into 8th grade, I lived in that small town of Safford, and then my parents ended up splitting up, so we decided to move to Tucson, Arizona. I moved with my dad. We decided we were going to go to Sunnyside High School, who's not only the best wrestling program in the state of Arizona, but it was one of the best wrestling programs in the West Coast. So that was the decision we made as far as going forward with wrestling. When I first got there, it was way different. You know, it was in the south side of Tucson, which is pretty ghetto, predominantly Mexican. It was a rough neighborhood, rough school. You know, you had to be pretty tough to survive at that school, especially coming from a little town like I was. I was a sheltered kid, basically. My biggest achievement in my high school wrestling career was winning Fargo Nationals as a junior in high school. I also was a 4-time state champion in wrestling, which wasn't easy, but that was one of the goals I set, you know, early in my wrestling career as, you know, 6th, 7th, 8th grader. I wanted to become a 4-time state champion, and I wanted to become Sunnyside's first 4-time state champion. We've had, you know, real big legends of the sport of wrestling come through that program, and you know, it was my goal to be the best to ever come out of that program. And you know, the effort and the hours I put into wrestling, I think it elevated me to that level. Fighting growing up as a kid was like second nature to us. It was like my brother was only about a year younger than me, and it was a constant battle with him. Every single day it was fights, and it wasn't like, oh, he pushed me, make me cry. It was like we were fighting. We had boxing gloves, you know, we'd go out in the backyard and fight and stuff like that. But I never really went out and like I was picking fights with people, you know. I was more, I didn't shy away from it, and I didn't, you know, run the other direction when a fight occurred. But I didn't do my best to alleviate the problem as well. So, you know, I got in my fair share of dust-ups, but you know, mostly I was, you know, helping people out, like either they're being picked on or, you know, treated the wrong way, you know, try to set the guy straight. Me and my brother, when I tell you we fought, like we literally fought all the time. Every single day of our lives we fought. And my dad was just sick of it. My dad was just, he was done. He had enough of us fighting. So one day, he comes home with boxing gloves and he goes, all right, you guys want to fight? He goes, here's gloves, you guys are going to fight. So I remember we're in our room and I'm like, I have my boxing gloves on and I'm like amped. I'm like amped to fight my little brother. Like it's going down. Like I am throwing blows on him. And I started to think, and he's crying. And I'm like, well, dude, why are you crying? We're about to fight. Like you can't cry. Like this is what you wanted. We've been fighting every day with no gloves on. And he's crying. I'm like, oh man, now I feel bad. I can't beat my brother up. Like, yeah, that's too far. My dad's like, no, you guys are gonna fight. You guys are gonna get this over with. You guys, I'm sick of this stuff. Out of nowhere, he just gets this, like, my little brother Michael just gets this like rage in him, and he just starts going at me. And I'm still in the process of like feeling sorry for him, so I can't hit him. So he's just beating the crap out of me. Eventually, I came around to giving him a good whooping, and That was one of my favorite fighting stories. We're both crying in our room in probably our underwear, just beating the crap out of each other with boxing gloves on. At the beginning of my senior year, it was at that time to start making a decision where I wanted to go further my career, what college I wanted to go to. And I had a couple options. I was very, very highly recruited coming out of high school. One of my options was Arizona State University, and one of the reasons why my dad was he loved ASU football, baseball. He was a big ASU fan, and it was only 2 hours or an hour and a half away from our hometown. So I wanted to be able to give him that opportunity to see me wrestle in college. After all the years and the sacrifices he put into making me, getting me to that point of wrestling. So that was one of the reasons why I chose ASU. Another was we had one of my guys I looked up to growing up, Eric Larkin. He was a high-level college wrestler. He wrestled, internationally. He also went to Sunnyside, so he came from the same area I came from, and I kind of wanted to follow in his footsteps. That's another one of the reasons why I chose ASU. So after I had made the decision to go to ASU, it was going to be a new change for me. There wasn't going to be that constant, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do, whatever. I had my obligations as far as school, wrestling, lifting, stuff like that. But it was different. I had a lot more freedom. And as most of you guys know, ASU is known for a party school. So one of the things I did there was I had my share of fun. But I ended up leaving ASU after my freshman year. I ended up tearing my ACL, and then I rehabbed from that, came back, and then I ended up leaving after my sophomore year at ASU, transferring to Cal State Fullerton.